My local library is cancelling its subscription to one of our e-reading platforms, and I had several books saved in my to read list. So this month's theme was to get into this app and read as many books as I could before it disappeared. Hi there, welcome to Coffee Break Plans. Today I'm putting together my September reading journal. Now, forcing myself to read books that I may not necessarily be in the mood for isn't a great way to ensure a good month, but I set off on this journey anyway. The first book I read was How to Survive a Horror Story by Mallory Arnold. The plot of this is that a bunch of people are lured to the house of a late great author for his will reading, and they are steadily murdered one by one as they move through the rooms of the house. I really liked the premise and I liked the format that each room had a riddle that needed to be solved. You can't tell if the characters are good or evil. There's a bit of an unreliable narrator going on, and that's always fun to read. But it became a little bit corny and cartoony, and there was a twist at the end, and I don't feel that it was earned. And I can't talk more about that without going into spoilers, so I'm going to leave it there. My next book was Nightfall in the Garden of Deep Time by Tracy Higley. Not quite sure what to say about this book. It has a great premise as well. There's a young writer. She's trying to save her grandmother's bookshop, and she's also trying to publish her novel. She discovers a garden at the side of the bookshop where at a certain time she can go in there and it becomes something different, and she meets famous people. They're all creative, and the theme, which is that you should create stuff no matter how bad you think it is written 10 feet high, stuffed in your face, under your nose, and by the third act is rammed well and truly down your throat. Dude, we get it. The story also takes quite an abrupt turn about three-quarters of the way through into no man's land for a whole segment that felt like it was from another book. But people love this book on Goodreads, so you can practically see the teardrops of how much it changed their lives on the internet page. So look, don't let my opinion stop you from reading it. All I can say is it didn't change my life. The third book that I read was The Socialite's Guide to Murder by S.K. Golden. This is about a rich hotel heiress swanning about in a hotel in New York. She spends a lot of money. She's a complete brat. She treats people poorly while solving a murder. She thinks that money solves everything. Now, I like my characters flawed. No one likes a Mary Jane. Is it a Mary Jane or a Mary Sue? No one likes a Mary Sue, but this was just way too far the other way. She was downright unlikable and she stayed that way. And this was another case where something surfaced a long way into the book that wasn't foreshadowed, nor was it earned, and it only cropped up when the plot needed it to. Again, I can't say too much because spoilers. The last one was The Day Shelley Woodhouse Woke Up by Laura Pearson. Trigger warning for this book, it contains domestic violence. Now, I think she did a really great job of showing the insidious nature of coercive control that steadily increases until it leads to physical violence. And it also shows the cycle of violence. If you are abused as a kid, you are more likely to be abused or become the abuser. It's not graphic, we're not talking about Once Were Warriors levels here, but be warned. However, after moaning about previous books not foreshadowing, this book telegraphed a little too much for me, and I guess pretty much the whole plot in the first few chapters. I kept hoping I was wrong, but I wasn't. I also felt that it went a little bit long and that the last act dragged a little bit, but that could have been because the due date was looming to get this book back to the library and I knew I had to get it finished. So I found it really hard to pick the best book out of all of these because they were entertainment and enjoyable, but none of them were real standout reads for me. I'm probably going to go with How to Survive a Horror Story because above all else it was fun. So there's something to be said for just being able to sit down and enjoy a corny book. The Day Shelley Woodhouse Woke Up will be my second best, and the other two are mediocre at best in my opinion. So looking at my October setup now, I'm going to do something a little bit different this month because I've decided to take part in a reading challenge. It is an October spooky season challenge. She's put together what they're calling a spell book, and it contains a number of spells that you can cast by reading particular types of books. So each spell is made up of 3 books, and there's a booked prompt for each spell. and there's a total of 24 books. So you don't have to read 24 books. There are easy, medium, and hard levels. I'm not going to go into huge detail because Erin Smith herself does a way better job. So I will put the link to that reading challenge down in the description box. One of the great things about this challenge is that you can start doing it in September. So any books that you read in September count as long as they are less than 50% finished. So I have already started reading books that will go towards that October challenge because I'm such an overachiever. I feel like even though there is no way on earth that I can read 24 books in 1 month, I'm still that person who says, well, I reckon I can do most of that. So I've decided to go for the medium level and we'll see how that goes. And so what I decided to do is, just in case I absolutely do not have time to do this whole challenge, I've committed towards doing 2 spells. So I'm going to write the books that I've chosen for those 2 spells into my October challenge, and then that gives me 6 books, and then if I achieve that, I'm happy. So I changed my mind about this and decided to write down 3 spells instead of just 2. There is a double up on some of them. So Dune is, according to the prompt, is a book with a potion, poison, or elixir in the story. And it is also a book that features a prophecy, vision, or psychic. So that fits both of those spells. It's also my favourite book of all time. I read it when I was 13, so any excuse to reread it is always a good one. So that concludes my September reading journal and my October setup, and just in time as that sun is coming around quite quickly and is about to catch the page. I would normally shift the blind so that it locks it out, but it's been raining all week and I'm just glad to see some sun. But we're all set up now, ready for October. Hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time.